Hello everyone, we are Group 8. Our topic today is comparing difference between quantitative and qualitative research design. And next, I will introduce our group members. Here are our group members, me, 戴家乐, and 张家路, 薛子涵, 范若瑶, and 田苗青. A research design is a detailed plan or framework used to conduct a research study. It involves outlining the overall approach and methods that will be used to collect and analyze data to answer research questions or test hypotheses. It provides the basic structure that connects the research problem with the data collection and analysis methods for analyzing and interpreting the results. But before starting a research study, it is crucial to make sure that the data gathered for the findings is valid and reliable. Understanding both approaches is also necessary for researchers to select the most appropriate method depending on various research objectives. Therefore, we are aimed to compare qualitative and quantitative research designs by discussing their definitions, purpose, and key differences. Then you can know the research design you want to apply, and then I will pass the session to the definition part.
Definition of qualitative and quantitative research. Qualitative research is an approach that seeks to explore and understand the meanings individuals or groups assign to social or human issues. It emphasizes in depth understanding of experience, behaviors, and perspectives rather than numerical measurement. Often conducted in natural settings, qualitative research uses multiple methods such as interviews, observations, and case study to explain phenomena based on participants' lived experience. Quantitative research. Quantitative research is a systematic investigation that uses numerical data and statistical analysis to explain, predict, and generalize findings related to a phenomenon. It focuses on measuring and quantifying variables using structured methods like surveys and ex- expect experiments to test hypotheses and establish relationships between different factors.
Hello everyone. I will combine the core differences between qualitative and quantitative research by looking at two studies in the field of ASO education. For the first study, conducted by Omer and colleagues in 2020, uses a qualitative design to explore the motivational strategies among English language teachers in Malaysian higher education. This study focused on understanding how teachers view and apply different motivational techniques in their classrooms. The second study by Kuttner and Azo in 2018 adopts a quantitative approach. It investigates whether a range of instructional tools, such as Quizlet and Scoop, although both studies deal with the motivation in education, their research designs, data collection methods, and the types of findings are very different. So now let's take a closer look at these differences in the next slide. The comparison of the two studies across five main research design dimensions: research objectives, data collection, data analysis, and also sampling, last but not least, the findings. So, firstly, the research objectives. All aim to explore the teacher's personal beliefs and classroom practices. This is typical of qualitative research, which focuses on the in depth understanding. On the other hand, Kardner and Azo tested whether the teaching tools can statistically increase the students' motivation, which reflects the hypothesis-driven nature of the quantitative research. As for the data collection, Oma used semi-structured interviews with 10 experienced SO teachers. This method allowed for flexibility and rich descriptions. In contrast, Kantner and Azo used anonymous surveys before and after the semester, completed by 41 students to collect numerical data. In addition, data analysis almost study used semantic coding to identify the patterns in teachers' responses. While in Kantner and Azo's study, statistical tests such as the chi-square and Fisher's exact test were used to assess changes in motivation levels. More importantly, sampling. Almost study focused on a small, purposefully selected group of experienced teachers, while Kutner and Azo surveyed an entire class of students who to achieve a broader sample. Finally, the findings. Ulmer found that the strategies like proper teaching behavior and building learner confidence were highly valued, while promoting learner autonomy was less favored. In contrast, Kutney and Azo reported mixed results. Some external motivation improved, but confidence and intrinsic motivation declined significantly. In summary, this comparison highlights how research design strongly influences the research process and outcomes. Qualitative research, as shown by Omer and his colleagues, focuses on the exploring perspectives and meanings in a detailed, descriptive way. It involves small, specific samples and flexible interpretive methods. Quantitative research, on the other hand, as demonstrated by Courtney and Azel, aims to measure and test variables with larger samples, structures the instruments, and statistical tools. So, understanding these differences helps us choose the right design depending on the research questions. If we want to deeply understand a phenomenon, qualitative methods are more suitable. And if we want to test the effects or measure trends, quantitative approaches are more appropriate. But both designs have their own strengths, and in many cases, they can be combined in the mixed methods study to offer a more complete work. So that's all from me, and allow me pass the session to next presenter. Thank you.
So let's start with the qualitative research. First, it provides in-depth understanding. It helps researchers explore people's thoughts and experience in deeper way. For example, Xiong mentions it allows us to dive into social and educational issues, while Grant and Kara shows how autistic researchers give valuable insights into personal experiences. And second, it offers flexibility. Interviews can change depending on how the conversation flows. This helps researchers better follow up questions. Kakila says it helps explore new ideas that may come up unexpectedly. Thirdly, it gives contextual and holistic insights. This means it looks at the full picture, the culture, identity, and the history. As Xiong and Grant and Cora explain, this makes the findings more meaningful and inclusive. Now for the weaknesses. First is subjective, since it depends on the researcher's interpretation. Personal bias can affect the results. Both Xiong and Kakila warn that this can reduce accuracy, especially in the interviews. Second, it has limited generalizability. The sample sizes are small, so results often can't be applied to the wider population. As Jung points out, the qualitative research focuses more on depth than scale. Third, it's time consuming. Collecting and analyzing the data takes a lot of time. Kakela also notes that it's hard to repeat the same interview and capture the same emotions again. Now let's move on to the quantitative research. First is objective and precise. It relies on numbers and statistics, which reduces personal bias. Xiong says that it makes the research more reliable. Secondly, it allows for generalization. Because it uses the large samples, the findings can represent a bigger group. This is useful in policy making, healthcare, and education. However, quantitative research also has its limitations. First, it lacks depth and explanation. It tells us what is happening, but not why. As Jung notes, it makes it less suitable for studying complex human behavior. Second, it often ignores context. By isolating variables, it misses out on cultural or social factors. Kakila gives an example where ignoring language led to miscommunication in health studies. Third, it risks oversimplification. Standard tools can miss individual differences. Grant and Carroll argue that this can especially affect studies on neurodivergent groups, like autistic people.
Hello everyone, now we understand both the qualitative and quantitative research. Let's look at when to use each method. Researchers don't just pick method based on the preference. The choices depend on the research objective, the type of questions, and the kind of data needed. Since both methods view events from the different angles, each is valid in the right context. Quantitative research uses when you want to understand how or why something happens. It focuses on human experience, behaviors, and meanings. The sample is usually small and purposeful, and the data is collected through the interviews or observations. For example, you might explore how a community views education to develop a theory. And for the quantitative research, this method is best when your research involves large numbers, like the age or test scores. It answers questions like how much, how many, or to what extent. It uses large samples, surveys, or the experiment, and the goal is often to measure to compare. For example, you might test whether the role-play method improves ESL students' academic performance by comparing the test results. So use the qualitative method for the depth and meaning, and use the quantitative method for the measurement. Choosing the right method can improve your research reliability. That's all from my part. Thank you. In summary, we introduced two different research designs. Each of them is important and can be used in different situations. As we mentioned before, qualitative research is used to analyze meanings and experiences, mostly use non-numerical data such as observations and interviews, while quantitative research employs numerical data and statistical analysis to test hypotheses and identify correlations between variables. Both approaches have advantages and disadvantages, and the decision between them is based on the context, goals, and the research issue. By being aware of the distinctions between qualitative and quantitative designs, researchers can choose the best approach and guarantee the ethical integrity, validity, and the reliability of their research. And that's all from us. Thank you.